Hey guys, it's been a while. We're going from a category 4 storm to a category 5 storm. We're gonna have to fact check that. Hey guys, what's up? It's your man Pete. And just thought I would let you guys know about some amazing buying opportunities that are happening in the Toronto and GTA market right now, currently as we speak. And I know, buying a home, buying a condo is such a bad word. It's so faux pas. It's so 2020. There are still some of you out there that want to buy a property, whether as an investment or whether you're just trying to break into the housing market here in Toronto for the very first time. So wouldn't you want to know about some great buying opportunities? Of course you would. That's why this channel exists. It's a type of home buying experience that's a little bit different from everything else out there. It's different from pre-construction. It's different from buying just a resale. But the benefits and the upside are actually quite incredible if you can get into the right project at the right time at the right price. And it's really only the market that we're actually seeing a lot of really motivated and distressed sellers right now at the moment, because obviously everybody needs liquidity. It's hard to borrow money now, or it's just, it's a lot more expensive to do so. Where if you do this type of deal, you might even be able to buy the same price as when the person who's going to sell it to you paid when they signed the papers for pre-construction with the builder. There are some of those out there right now. And so being able to do that here in Toronto and the GTA anywhere is a really great deal already as it is. We'll get into a little bit of those right after this. Okay, so you may or may not have caught some of my other videos where I talked about picking up properties by assignment, whether it's a condo or a townhouse or even a detached home. But most assignments you'll see are typically for condos because there's just more of them and they're much more affordable. But if you haven't, then feel free to go through the channel and look up stuff that's about assignments. You can watch that and sort of get caught up quickly. And then you can come back and watch this video as I give you a little bit more insight into why it's a good deal. But honestly, if you're really thinking about buying an assignment or you're really thinking about getting in a good deal, then we're obviously going to walk you through the entire process step by step by step, very honestly and transparently here at Selling Toronto, so you can hopefully pick up your next home at a really, really great price. And I know we are all under precarious times with rapid inflation and even rapider interest rate hikes. Rapider? Is that even a word? Who writes this stuff? But of course, there's still some of you out there that still want to buy, still need to buy, or you're expanding and needing more space, or you're moving over with a bucket full of cash because you're one of those affluent immigrants. In which case, if you're looking for an agent, then of course you know who you should be calling. And there's still some of you who are savvy investors that are looking at this as this is a really good time to get in at this particular price because interest rates, they'll probably come back down again once everything starts to normalize, right? Hopefully, fingers crossed. And of course, if you really look at the fundamentals of Canada, Ontario, and the Greater Toronto region, the fundamentals are just so strong. They're so solid. We may not see the crazy growth that we saw over the last couple of years, but we know that there's a housing shortage here and pretty much everywhere around the world. And so it really feels like we're getting ready for another growth spurt here in Toronto, in the Greater Toronto area. It's just a matter of we don't know when. Pro tip, it usually starts happening way faster than you think it's actually going to happen, which is why you should stay subscribed to the channel and stay up to date with what's going on so that you know when the market starts turning for real. And so if you're tired of paying rent or you just want to move out of your parents' house or you're getting married, starting a family, all of that, to be able to pick up a condo for around $500,000 or less, no matter what quality, what grade it is going to be a pretty good price. And so that's why we're talking about assignments today, because there's some, mostly in the outer regions of Toronto, in the suburbs, where you're going to find properties for $400,000, $450,000, $500,000, which is so incredibly good from a price perspective that it's pretty much a no-brainer, okay? And then the hope is that this condo remains new for you over the next 1, 3, or 5 years. When you're ready to move out of it, it's still gonna be new. Now, I don't see too many opportunities like this. There are some motivated and distressed condo assignment sellers in the core inside of Toronto, downtown, but at those prices that they purchased 3, 4 years ago were just astronomical, So it's like, these people got so excited, they were exuberant, FOMO was going on all around. So a lot of people just like splashed money into property. Didn't matter what the price was, they were just looking at the fundamentals. But clearly downtown pricing is very, very high. I'm not sure how much more room there is left when you're buying pre-construction and assignments in downtown Toronto. But in places outside Toronto like Oakville, Milton, Etobicoke, Vaughan, Richmond Hill, in fact, Oakville, I think, was ranked as the second busiest building activity city in all of Canada. But if you really want to live downtown, I'm sure we can find something for you, but just be prepared to be paying at least $1,300, $1,400 per square foot for a tiny ass condo. You might get a good view though, but tiny. Okay, so why are these sellers selling? So why did they buy pre-construction from the builders and why are they putting it out there for sale? Well, again, like I said, picking up properties pre-construction was actually a really solid real estate investment philosophy, and it's done really well for a lot of people here in the city, me, myself including. But sort of in the last few years, you know, the pricing hasn't been so good because everything's gone up, right? Land values have gone up, labor has gone up, and so everything has gotten a lot more expensive. Basically, just trying to make money for you know, a condo, for it to go up in value, you would have had to pay, you know, ridiculous future pricing, and it was justified at the time because it's prime downtown real estate. Every now and then you will see these sort of ebbs and flows, peaks and valleys, where some investors make a lot of money in pre-construction condos, they do very well, and then there's some that they get exuberant and, you know, they get maybe talked into it or something like that, and then they buy a lot of property and then they don't realize that in the future they have to close on those properties. Of course, it's the easiest thing to do ever. You just have to sign a few checks, sign a few contracts, wait a few years, and then there's your money. And so for me, buying pre-construction and buying assignments downtown doesn't really make a whole lot of sense anymore, especially when you're gonna have to pay like $1 million for like 600 square feet. But the main problem is that sometimes these investors, they get too exuberant. You know, sometimes they're international investors and they have to sell properties or sell them by assignment before they can get the cash and be able to close on another property. I mean, I wouldn't say that there's a ton of those here in Toronto. I mean, that might start happening, but we're definitely starting to see some people who, you know, purchased way too expensive. They need to get out, or they need the cash for some other reason, and they have to sell before they close on it. Or maybe they just can't close on it because they've got too many properties registered under their name already. But truth be told, most property owners here in Toronto, most investors here in Toronto, they can afford to hang on to the property a little bit longer, you know, just rent it out maybe at a short loss, or they'll just find a way to sell it off. But it turns out that assignments are definitely the most difficult to sell because it requires a bigger cash outlay, I'm not gonna lie. Although there are sellers that will accept less than 10%, really they just wanna get their deposit back, the money that they put with the builder, and then the profits can come from the bank as long as it gets appraised for that value by the bank that you're using. But yeah, this downturn in the market is definitely a little bit longer and more prolonged, and it's pretty much been the lost year for real estate other than the first 3 months. But if you're complaining about high home prices, you know, inflation in the real estate market, and you're like, oh, these prices are gonna come down, it's unsustainable, and you know, blah, 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 blah. Well, here it is, right? So this is, I wouldn't call it a bubble bursting, I would call it more like a pretty severe correction, which was absolutely necessary. And so with the rate hike of 50 basis points that just came out yesterday, kind of seems like things are gonna slow down a little bit. You know, we're going from a category 3 storm to like a category 2 storm. We're really in these assignments typically because the sellers are really looking for a profit. You know, they're really expecting to make quite a bit of money back on their investment, which is like typically at least 100% of their deposit. So if they put in like 60, 70 grand into a property pre-construction, they can expect to earn back their investment and then double that. That's why people are investing in Toronto real estate. When they really need the cash and they got to do something else, they've got some other property they need to close on, so they need to sell this as quickly as possible. Even if they don't take a profit or they take a smaller profit, then they're willing to get out of the deal, and that's a good way to snag a deal. One of the few ways you can snag a deal here in Toronto. And of course, putting the deal together is not as easy as people think either. It's definitely a very complicated deal. It's very legal. It's very contract based. This is where you're going to find out whether you're working with an experienced agent here in Toronto or one who's not, okay? Because for me, I've been doing this throughout my career for the past 12 years. And there's a lot of different steps that you have to get through. And so, you know, agents really earn their commission on assignments because they're doing a lot of work, and lawyers are involved, builders lawyers involved, appraisals are involved, banks are involved, everyone's involved, okay? But we're willing to do it for you if it makes you happy and helps you set up your future nicely. Because as I always say here on my channel and with my clients, is making the first buy the right buy is really, really important. So if you have a bit of a contrarian tinge in you and you understand the fundamentals of Toronto real estate, or you simply just want to buy your very first place at a reasonable price, you know, in the 500 or even 600,000 range, trust me, these properties will set you up for a great foundation for the future, especially if we can negotiate and get a really, really good price. Hopefully you can buy it at the price that they bought it for, but to be able to purchase a condo here in Toronto, you know, in the $500,000 mark sounds incredibly cheap, and it sounds like it has a lot more room and potential for that price category to grow. If you haven't yet, please make sure you hit that subscribe button, give us a like, and as always, if you need more information and you want to learn more, then give us a shout. Contact is in the description box below. It's also at the end of the video, but we'd be happy to represent you, whether you're an investor, first-time home buyer, or you're trying to grow your empire. Thanks again for watching. Really appreciate you all. See you in the next one. Bye for now. But we know that there's a housing. Pro tip, it usually starts happening. Pro tip, it usually, it's very heavy, it's a lot of work, but we're willing to do it for you.